Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 22nd audio chat in the audio chat series on the Q News Patriot Rumble channel. I'm the Q News Patriot. My name is SG Anon. Tonight, I'm coming to you with an important individual who has backstory and personal exposure in the baseline component for why we are in a struggle for really what amounts to good versus evil in the world. Ms. Kelley, a human trafficking survivor, lived a personal hell I think that many of us have not ever truly grasped or comprehended, and is now doing the work, the hard, necessary work in the world to outline, to highlight, and to bring attention to how these operations are conducted at the community level, how they're conducted at the nation state level across borders, and how we, as we the people, can participate actively in removing sort of a neighborhood watch, if you will, to assist in removing these types of criminals and this type of deviant practice, not only from our communities, but from the world at large. So without further ado, Ms. Kelley, I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you having me. Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for what you do and the message you're putting out to the world.
Well, I think the message is, as we're bringing it to the people, is the most important component, because it's the first time here in human history that we've ever had the capability to really spread what is the truth, to really talk about what is occurring in the world, and to have that truth received by the masses, and properly digested and analyzed and absorbed, right, to cause a realization change in the consciousness of man. And that's really, I think, the journey that we're on at the end of the day. And I wanted to offer you the floor, if I could, just for a little while, to maybe share with the audience how you came, to be associated with the work that you do now, and what your personal story was, as much as you're willing to share and as much as you're comfortable sharing, with living this actual practice here in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously, it's a long story, so I'll summarize just some key parts of it for the sake of context, and also so people can understand, where I'm coming from. So I was born and raised in an international religious cult. And unfortunately, it was maybe, 40 to 50,000 adults and, who chose to join a cult. But a part of society that most people aren't familiar with is the difference when a child is born into that type of controlled environment, and the either intentional or sometimes unintentional harm that can happen as a result of children who can't consent, who are controlled and even monetized in these situations, and who don't have access to the outside world, and who don't have an advocate who can guide them and, be that type of strong adult, safe presence that every child deserves. So unfortunately, it was around 25,000 children in this cult, mostly Americans who were living overseas. So these were mostly American children, but some of them were also from other countries. So unfortunately, trafficking was one of the many forms of abuse. Another aspect of this that I don't expect people to hopefully be able to relate to, but it's something that the public doesn't often consider, is that there's a lot of bad things happening to those children in these types of situations at once. And often, the various forms of abuse can be multi-directional, ranging from physical, sexual, emotional, spiritual, and everything in between. And just the consistency of it when that's your reality and that's all you know. So tragically, it was way too many of us. And in my situation, so I was born in Brazil. My mom's from Texas. She thought it was a good idea to join this cult. And, that's a whole other story. But hey, it's a free country. So like, if you decide to do something kooky with your life, that's your choice. But when you have children in this environment and you choose to raise them in this type of scenario, a lot can go wrong. And it's very unfortunate that there are a lot of these cult type groups still existing to this day. So I'm going to speed up, the story, because there's so much more I could unpack here. But tragically, we were never rescued. We were never part of the statistics you may or may not read. And in my case, I escaped when I was 20 years old. People aren't familiar with cults. Even well-meaning people will sometimes say things like, wow, you really stayed a long time, or like, wow, why didn't you leave sooner? And I don't take personal offense. I laugh. I also, just as a disclaimer, I have a very, dark sense of humor.
Indeed. And what's what I'm finding interesting about your story as I'm listening to this is the mystery, the shadow, sort of the shadow machinations of society, if you will, that happens
It was
through.
a
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. It is a chosen form of release and healing, and it takes quite a lot of work to get there. But it is very empowering to, in my case, I have the unique ability to be able to not only talk about this without it affecting me emotionally and making me want to cry and things like that. And I'm very grateful for that healing that I've chosen to do. But it's also very empowering, of course, fast forward to where I am today, that I've chosen to fight back and that I've been able to put myself in a position where I can be a voice for the voiceless and be that advocate that I didn't have and tens of thousands of us didn't have and that we definitely deserved. So I accept now that not only, that was meant to happen, I'm grateful that we made it through that. Most survivors, most people don't survive that type of existence. Did you know, by the way, the average lifespan for a child in a trafficking environment is 7 years?
Indeed.
So it's unfortunate, there's also statistically less than 1% of victims are ever rescued. And just a real quick side note on statistics, because I'm a marketing professional, right? So I live and die by data. That's a whole thing. However, statistics when it comes to something as dark and evil as child trafficking and exploitation, realize that statistics are only based on what's reported. And the majority of this criminal enterprise is not reported. These aren't exactly criminals that are filing taxes, to put it that way. So the statistics are barely scratching the tip of the iceberg. And I know that from lived experience as well as, what I do today. But I also know that it's so much worse than what we're even aware of. And now, as not only an advocate, but someone who's actively combating child trafficking in the United States, I get to fight back. And I also have faced this evil, this darkness that so many people are afraid of and are unwilling to even talk about, much less face, much less get into the fight and do something about it. But when you've faced and have overcome that darkness, unfortunately, as a child, which I wouldn't wish on anybody, but I'm not trying to be tough or naive. It's just that I'm not scared of it. And I know how weak and pathetic it is. And I know that all of us can do something to be part of the solution and to make a difference. And I also know that it's a massive issue and maybe we can't completely destroy this evil, but we can make a difference for some children, and that matters. If all you can do is impact one child, I promise you that matters. So I'm grateful to be where I am today and to be in the position that I'm in. I've worked with Veterans for Child Rescue for the last few years. It's a nonprofit based in the USA. We expose and eradicate.
Oh, Miss Kelley, I'm sorry. We've lost your audio. Expose and eradicate was the last thing that we heard on this end. I do
But the
apologize.
United States,
Miss
sorry?
Kelley, I apologize.
Yes.
We lost your audio on this end. The last thing we heard was that you're working for veterans for, I believe it was child rescue, and that you are exposing and eradicating trafficking, I'm presuming at the community level.
All over the United States, yes. So we work with law enforcement to do counter trafficking operations around the United States. I've personally been on a couple counter trafficking ops in Texas in the last few months. So the founder of Veterans for Child Rescue, his name is Craig Sawyer. He's a former, tier 1 Navy SEAL war hero. He was at the top level of counterterrorism, like incredible military career, and one of those American heroes that we should give more attention to. But in summary there, he was fighting evil overseas and keeping it out of our hometown. And then when it came to his attention that this type of evil was not only in existence in the United States, but it's thriving, he simply couldn't deal with that and has now dedicated his life. So their skill set to fight for children.
Miss Kelley, I do apologize. We're losing your audio again on this end. You were discussing the founder for Veterans for Child Rescue.
To me, this is paying it forward, if you will, in the sake of, I'm not going after my abusers because it's, neither here nor there and it's a long time away, but I'm able to fight back and I'm able to be that voice for the kids who deserve it.
My goodness, I do apologize, everyone. We are having some audio connectivity issues here. The last time that we attempted to record this call, we were actually cyber attacked and the call was completely shut down. So this wouldn't surprise me at all if we're experiencing a similar playbook, perhaps on a less scale. I've scaled my VPN for more security. Ms. Kelley, I apologize. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I apologize. I can hear you now, but we've had some audio connectivity on this end, and I was just telling the audience out there that the last time we attempted this, we were actually cyber attacked and completely pulled down. Because of the nature of the conversation, because of the individuals out there like yourself that are involved, not only having experienced the cultic dark trafficking world, but also now being exposed to how to meaningfully impact it, meaningfully cause them grievous difficulty. And actually, if we're still good on the connection, I'd like to ask a little bit about that. You were talking about Veterans for Child Rescue, the founder, the basis for the organization, the overall mission for the organization. My personal question, I think, at this point would be, what, in your estimation, is the best thing that patriots out there who are wanting to contribute to this fight in some way, financially or otherwise, what's the best thing that they can do to help support that work and to bring awareness to this fight?
Definitely. Well, I appreciate that question because it is all about action. Now, awareness is also so important, and I will unpack that further. But in summary, awareness is not just a feel-good term. Awareness reduces the predator's ability to operate. So if we, the people, were not only united and willing to stand up for children, but if we were walking around in public aware of what to look for and what to do, we could make it harder for bad guys to do bad things to children.
Indeed, understood. And so the public conversation then becomes very, very important. How can people get involved in the public conversation as it pertains to Veterans for Child Rescue, that specific work? I'm sure that they can find the organization, but does the organization have, say, a social media that they can land on, or an official verified profile on a main, we'll call it Silicon Valley big tech machine? Is there a place they can be found there?
Yes, absolutely. So because our mission is to expose and eradicate, we focus a lot on social media and awareness and prevention education. So on our website, it's vets4childrescue.org, or you can go to v4cr.org.
Wonderful. Was that the conclusion there? Oh, we
What
may
is
have been.
child trafficking? There's signs of child trafficking. We expose different tactics like grooming and what it is. There's how to identify predators. There's so much information that's really important for people to take advantage of and to also share with people. Knowledge is power, especially when you do something with that knowledge. So I would implore people to check out the website. Again, it's v4cr.org. Lots of information there. And we also have an entire documentary. It's a very well produced film that exposes not only the history and who's behind it and the nefarious activity of why it's inserted into our culture in such a massive way, but also it shows a glimpse of some of our counter trafficking operations with law enforcement, where you see these bad guys get arrested and taken off to jail or to put behind bars. And it's a really empowering film that I hope people will watch. It's called Contraland. So again, all of this information is on our website, so please take the time to study it. We also have 10 actions you can take right now. So my challenge to everyone listening, everyone who cares, whether or not you have children, this matters and this affects all of us. I want to challenge people to pick at least one of those 10 action steps and do it in the next 24 hours. Now, these are very easy to do things. And again, you can pick whatever is achievable.
I apologize. I think we may have lost you again, Miss Kelley.
Right now.
You were
But this
discussing
really
action steps that
matters.
people could take, correct?
Yes, I don't know if I cut off there, but everything is on the website, v4cr.org. We have so much free information that I hope people can study and share.
Wonderful. Well, I have to admit, I think that concludes the questions that I have for this afternoon. We don't normally have audio chats that are this quick, but sometimes it's nice, I think, to get directly to the heart of the issue. And this is, I think, one of the most important, if not the most important issue in the battle of good and evil out there happening in the world right now, the eradication of organized human slavery, the eradication of a government incentivized trafficking system, right? And that's really what this boils down to when we look at the different bureaucratic arms in all governments everywhere and how they ancestrally tie to large shipping companies, large international organizations, etc. Ms. Kelley, I really appreciate you taking some time to come on today. If people wish to contact you directly or contact your organization outside of Veterans for or Child Rescue directly, is there a way that they may do so?
So we're all over social media. So I personally don't have, a personal social media presence that I would direct people to, but I do I manage the online presence and I work with a lot of the content that we create for Veterans for Child Rescue. So if you check out the website, all our social media links are there. We're on all the big platforms, including TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all the people that don't want us to talk about protecting children. I just have a way of saying it without saying it. So we're fortunate, and it's also very strategic, that we're able to get the message out even on these platforms that are not supportive of our message. So for example, I go live on TikTok pretty much every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. So they can interact with me live there. And by the way, I'm not recommending TikTok. If you don't use it, that's totally fine. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people there that need to hear the message. So I'm willing to put myself out there on these platforms. But definitely check us out on social media and you can interact with us. We're very responsive to all the comments and messages and posts that people share. So thank you so much for that support.
Absolutely. And there you have it, folks. One of the quicker audio chats that we've had on the Q News Patriot channel, but one I think that gets to the core component of the war that we're all living through. We must save the children. We must end human trafficking, and we must live better. We must shape this world in a way that is far more balanced in the direction of light. It has been overbalanced in the direction of darkness for far too long. And I thank people like Ms. Kelley for the work that they're doing and the experiences that they've lived. This is SG Anon. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot channel. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.